College of Business graduate programs. Let's see, I graduated from BYU-Idaho. I think some of you remember the president also mentioned that I graduated from the accounting program, and then I did not think, going to graduate school was not in my plans. I didn't think that I would do that. But then to become a CPA, I needed to have 150 credit hours to sit for the exam. So then I started thinking about and looking at schools, and a lot of the students that I graduated from the accounting program were applying to ISU because if you graduate with a business or with an accounting accounting degree from BYU-Idaho, it takes you a year, and then they have their classes set up so that you can study for the CPA exam along with how the classes are set up. So then I applied to Utah State, and I applied to ISU, and then I got in, but I couldn't start at Utah State in the spring, which I wanted. I had to wait until the following fall. So then I called Heidi, and then we had a little chat, and she told me a little bit about the program and everything, and then I decided, well, I'm going to go to ISU. And I really enjoyed it. I did my MBA. I didn't go for a Master of Accountancy. I knew I didn't want to do that. So I did my MBA. I got my MBA from ISU, and it was a wonderful experience. My emphasis was in accounting, and so I took a lot of the math classes. Actually, I ended up taking a lot of the math classes, and I networked a lot with the students and some of the professionals they bring in. And overall, it was a great experience. I loved the professors. They're in my corner. I can say that for sure. And so when I ended up having to come back to school, I remember it was graduation in May 2017, and Heidi and I were talking, and I was telling her, I was like, I might have to come back to school. And she's like, okay, apply and let me know. And then so I applied, and then I was gonna start later, and then Heidi emailed me one time, and she's like, when are you coming back? And I was like, probably won't be later because things are not looking good right now. And then things worked out so that I could come back in the fall, and I was really excited to come back. Actually, when I left ISU, I was excited to graduate, and I was like, I'm getting out of Pocatello, and I'm ready to be done. But then when I moved, I was like, man, I miss Pocatello. And I think part of it is because a lot of the students that were in my classes I had graduated from BYU-Idaho as well, and so we had a lot of things in common. Like we talk about our professors, we talk about like how awards were like, we talk about all these different things, and it was just fun. And then our professors, some of them are earlier, some of them are not, but they were just very engaging, and they're very involved, and they want to help, and they want the students to succeed. And so it was a great experience. So when I got the opportunity to come back, I was actually excited, and it's been a wonderful program. Like I'm doing the Master of Taxation now, and it's a brand new program. So it started in the fall. I was one of the very first students. So she's going to be starting in the fall in the Master of Healthcare. So she's going to be one of the very first students too for that program. And it's exciting because, I don't know, for me, I love it because they worked so hard to get the MTech program ready, but in a lot of ways, in some other ways, we're all learning together and we're growing together, and they're saying, okay, this is really good. This is something we want to keep going in this program. And they're like, oh, maybe we might want to change this and address this like a little bit differently. So it's a fun experience to know that you're like one of the very first people to go through a program and see it be a success and like have fun while you're doing it. So anything else?
That's great.
Okay.
Isn't she wonderful? Thanks, Diana. I have some people that would like to. You guys want some? Or you just came for the food? I almost said if you're late, you can. Oh, you can use that napkin.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Heidi Chiosaki. I am the director of our graduate programs at ISU. Some of you came to our presentation last semester. I was on maternity leave at the time. So I'm sorry to engage you. Some of you I met as a career. And maybe some of you emailed me, and hopefully some of you started I'm just curious, how many of you are upperclassmen? So juniors here. Oh, most of you, good. And how many of you are planning on going on to graduate school? Good. So I know, of course, I want you to say that you're going to go to ISU, but please don't because we brought you through. Just I'm just interested in what your plans are for graduate school. Even if it's not ISU, or like what programs do you guys want to do?
Like what program or where?
What program?
Like an MHA?
Yeah.
Yeah, an MHA.
Is that what you want to do, an MHA?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll make MHAs. Good. Any others? MBA? How many MBAs? You want to go? Okay. Anything else? There's a lawyer in here, but he's not.
Just spectating. Yeah.
He's just here for the food. So mostly MHA, MBA. Any of you kind of like on the fence on if you want to go to graduate school or not? Yeah, still kind of exploring. What might your other options be? Like, what are you considering besides graduate school?
Working.
Working? You want to make some money? Good. I assume in the healthcare field. How many want to stay in this area? No one.
My wife.
Your wife. Oh, sure. Sure. So, who was here last semester for the presentation? So, does anybody know anything about ISU? What can you tell me about ISU or Idaho State University?
Yeah, go bring them.
It's new.
It's in Pocatello. Thank you.
I know you guys have the facility in Idaho Falls.
We do.
Or a couple.
Yeah, we have a campus in Idaho Falls.
Meridian.
And Meridian, yes. Good.
I
So,
saw one in, I think it was in Twitch Falls. Is there one in Twitch Falls too? I read that somewhere, but.
we do offer some classes at 12 Falls. We're going to broadcast there, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But we don't have, we partner with CSI in Twin Falls.
Okay.
What else do you guys know about ISUs?
Cheaper than a lot of schools.
It's so affordable. Don't say cheap.
Sorry.
Economical.
Yeah.
It's a great return for your investment. Yeah.
I know you guys have a lot of networking opportunities depending on what your degree is.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we have a lot of our professors have been in the workforce, and so they have networked really well with the professionals. So that's been really good. Anything else that I issue? So, Idaho State. So there's 3 major state universities in Idaho. Idaho State has the healthcare mission. So ISU is the healthcare university. We have some outstanding healthcare programs, really well recognized. And that's part of the reason why our dean was really interested in creating a Master's of Healthcare Administration to be complementary with ISU's mission. So, so we will be offering the MHA for the very first time this fall, which is really exciting. It's like I haven't talked about, she's the first in our Masters of Taxation program, and how that's an exciting place to be because you can help form and shape the program a little bit. And initially class sizes are relatively small, and so you get some really great interaction, a lot of personal time with professors. So a lot of great opportunities that way. The other thing that's unique about it, this will be the first and only MHA in the state of Idaho. So, so we're excited about that, to be able to offer that for the state of Idaho. And then someone mentioned that we have our 3 campuses. So the way that the program has been designed is kind of unique in that we'll have, the vision is to have 2/3 of the class distance learning. So there'll be a professor at one of those 3 locations, and then it'll be broadcast to the other 2 locations. So that the professor could be in Pocatello and then broadcast to Idaho Falls and Meridian, or they could be in Meridian and broadcast to the other locations. So you'll have a live experience that way, and then about a third of the classes will be online. So there's some flexibility. We have lots of professionals who are interested in our program, so there's going to be an interesting mix of students coming in. So the classes are mostly offered in the evening, and it's pretty flexible so that you can go part-time or full-time if you want. A lot of those professionals will want to take classes part-time and obviously take advantage of those evening classes. How many of you like envision just going to school full-time as soon as you graduate, doing a full-time program to get done as quickly as possible? Yeah, so we have that option. But then any of you who are like, well, I kind of like to make some money while I go to school, you can work during the day and then take some classes in the evening part-time to get through that way. So there were a few people who were from Boise. Yeah. So would you be interested in our program in Meridian, or
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So you get into the program, can you have the option of being at any of the 3 locations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you don't have to like elect where you're going to be, and you can stay there. So you just apply to the whole program and you tell us where you want to go. Good question. Good question. Yeah.
And then so 1/3 of the classes take place online. So is that required? You have to take at least 1/3 of the classes is online, or is there an option for all of the classes be online?
Well, I think initially where we're trying to cover the different campuses, some of those, depending on which classes they are, they'll only be offered online, just so that we can reach all of the students. If you're a student that wants to be in the classroom, probably the best campus for you would be Pocatello, because that's our hub, and that's where most of our in-classes are offered. That's a great question. Any other questions? Okay, so some of you had talked about a dual MHA, MBA. What might be the advantage of that?
If someone is tired of healthcare at some point in their life, they can go on and pursue some other business career.
Yeah, great. That's a great option.
Work in anything other than the hospital?
Yeah, right. Good.
That's true.
Good. We have we've combined our MBA program with our pharmacy program. So we have a really great PharmD program at ISU that's offered in Pocatello and Meridian, and we have a handful of their students who do the MBA and the pharmacy program. The pharmacy program tells me that those students who graduate with the joint MBA with their pharmacy degree, pharmacists, they're not poor, right? They make pretty good money. They tell me that those who do both at graduation, their starting salaries is 50% higher than those who just do the pharmacy program. I'm not exactly sure how that might translate in healthcare administration, but it does. MBA is the most widely recognized graduate degree out there, and potentially the most versatile. It's easy to be really in any field. Businesses, healthcare, for better or for worse, is becoming more and more big business. So having some more business in your background will be helpful. So we do offer the dual. I don't know if that's exactly the right term for it, because you end up with you would, if you wanted to do both, you would apply for both programs, and then you get a degree from both programs. But we would overlap when we advise you. We would overlap your classes so that you could get through a little bit quicker. There's already some MBA classes mixed in with the MHA classes, and so then you just take probably 6 more classes to complete both. Okay, he has a kind of first, and then I'll come to you. Okay.
So is that, to get into your MBA program, is that, I guess, just as hard? Do you have to interview? Do you just have to apply?
So it's the same admissions, it's identical admissions process, okay. Yeah, for both programs. So, I mean, in theory, if you get into one, you should be able to get into the other. So, yeah, great question.
Also on that, but the prereqs I'm not graduating with my bachelor's in administration. I don't think that'll help.
Okay, so there are no prerequisites for either of our programs to begin. The requirement is that you have completed a bachelor's degree to be eligible to apply. Someone who has a background in in healthcare administration probably they'll get through the program a little bit quicker because there's some classes that we'll be able to waive because they've had that coursework in their undergraduate studies. But you won't have to be in the program. You won't need to have any prerequisites, and that's the same for the MBA. So great question. If you get a minor in business while you're here, then our MBA is about a 1-year program, and that's kind of what we're envisioning for the MHA. If you get a degree in healthcare administration, our hopes is that you can complete it in about a year. So, yeah.
I know most schools don't care if you apply with with a GRE or GMAT score for an MHA, but if we were to apply for the dual degree, I know most business schools prefer the GMAT. Is that same with ISU?
So we accept both. So since you guys have some questions on the application, we can just go over that. We do accept both the GMAT and the GRE. And last I heard, about 80% of business schools will actually accept the GRE now. So if you look on the back of this card that I handed out, it goes over the application process. And this is pretty typical of what you'll see for most programs. It's a $60 fee to apply. Our application is all online. We require 2 letters of recommendation. If you could, for you guys coming directly from an undergraduate, what makes the most sense is to probably have at least one of those be a professor, but we don't have requirements on who your letter should be from. But just keep in mind, we're looking for people who can vouch for your ability to be successful in our program. So most relative experience. And so for you guys, it would be professors probably. And then of course, if you have some work experience, an advisor, supervisor, boss, manager, even you could include like a client. I've occasionally had like a bishop or a mission president write a letter of recommendation, and that's really acceptable. Your mother's probably, I mean, I know that she can write a great letter for you, but we think she's a little biased. So we're pretty open on who that can be from. And then statement of purpose. So that's less than a page, why you're interested in pursuing our program. So if you're going to do a dual, you're going to do the MBA and the MHA, then I would just write one statement of purpose and include information like that you're interested in both programs, and then apply to both applications. Does that make sense? And then your resume. And then we do require the GMAT or the GRE. Does anybody know very much about those exams? Does anyone take one or the other? How'd it go?
Really good.
Yeah.
I did it for like 2 months.
Yeah.
I think the average was okay. So.
You took it. Were you able to take it here in Rexford?
No, I took it at IC.
Oh, you had to go to ISU for it because they don't offer it here. I think the GMAT you can take here.
Yeah.
In Rexford.
They do the GMAT at
Yeah.
testing center.
At the testing center here. Yeah.
Not the
The
GRE.
GRE, you have to go to So when we evaluate your application, we weigh your GMAT or your GRE score with your GPA. So if you have a really strong GPA, then that takes some of the pressure off of that GMAT or GRE score, and vice versa. If you have a weaker GPA, then you need a stronger GMAT or GRE. So a little background on those 2 exams. They both have quite a bit of overlap. They each have a quantitative section. The GRE, you're allowed to use a 4-function calculator. The GMAT, you get no calculator. It's a lot of math that you haven't done since high school. And so you just need to spend some time. Like I get accountants that are like, oh, I have a degree in accounting. I can do this test without studying. And then it's unfortunate. Because it's math that you haven't done for a while. You have to go back into the reaches of your mind to remember. There's a lot of like arithmetic, a little bit of geometry, some statistics. So a nice sprinkling of a variety of different topics in there. And then the verbal section, this is kind of where they diverge more. The GRE has more vocabulary-based questions on there. The GMAT is more grammar. So if you're stronger in one or the other, then that might determine which exam you take. those of you who are not sure if you want to go on to graduate school, I'm gonna give you some free advice, so it's worth what you pay for. But the exam is good for 5 years, okay? And I would say that taking one of these exams is the #1 barrier I see to people being admitted to the program. Not the score of their exam, but actually making the effort to take the exam. The score, it can become a barrier, but there's, it's very hard, especially the further you get from school, to buckle down and take one of these 3 to 4 hour exams. So while you're in school, even if you're not planning on going to graduate school, or even if you're a couple years away, I implore you to take some time to take that exam. There's a lot of great resources here on your campus. I know with the GRE, if you qualify for financial aid, you can also qualify for having some of the fee reduced on your GRE. I'm not sure if it's the same with the GMAT. So take advantage of your resources while you're here. Take it early. Not much of what you're going to study going forward is going to improve your ability to be successful on the exam. That makes a lot of past information, and then just buckling down and studying for it. So yeah.
How many times can you?
As many times as you can afford.
How much are you charging?
So the GRE is about $200, and the GMAT is $250. So yeah, as many times as you can afford. So it's in your best interest. It's in your best interest to study for it. There's a lot of resources. Like I said, there's a lot of resources here on your campus, but there's a lot of online resources. A lot of free practice tests out there. When you register for the GMAT, I'm not sure with the GRE, when you register with the GMAT, they give you 2 practice tests. So don't just go in and take it. Take some practice tests. Most people do better on their practice than they do on the actual, so keep that in mind as well. That you're practicing above what you hope to get on the actual. So, and if you take it and you don't do very well, it's okay. I didn't either. You just need to find some money to do it. But I would say, I don't know, 20 to 30% of our applicants do ask them to retake it to improve their score to be admitted. So, yeah.
What is that score that you're shooting for?
Okay, great question. So like I was saying earlier, we weigh it with your GPA. And if you look on this card, the fine print on this, the most dark box at the bottom, it shows you, based on your GPA, what you need to score. So if you have a 3.0 GPA and you took the GMAT, you need a 500 on the GMAT, and that scales between a 200 and an 800. So I think it's 550. 550 is about 50% higher. So, so like I said, the higher your GPA, then the less pressure there is on that. And for your GPA, we're looking at your most recent 60 credits. So those of you who your freshman year got a girlfriend or boyfriend or didn't care, there's forgiveness. We just look at your last 60. And that's typical of most universities, yeah.
This way of calculating the scores, is it unique to ISU or do other schools?
You know, I think some other schools do it. I've seen other schools that have actually published it like ISU has, but a lot of schools don't publish what they use. We're a little bit unique in that we do publish it, but like I said, I've seen other schools that do publish it as well. So
Thanks.
Yeah, great question. Any questions on that? Yeah.
Are you ever looking at the medical school?
That is in the works. I don't have the details on that, but yes, that is something that they're trying to do, is a medical and imaging playground. I know that there's a lot of, I'm not as involved with creating that, but yes, I know Tracy Farnsworth, who's the director of our NHA, he's also he'll be the president of the medical school, and so he's really well positioned to be able to bring 2 programs together. And that's one of the reasons why we're making a big effort to offer it, because that's what the medical school is. Those campuses are, it's on the same campus. So, yeah, good question. Are you interested in medical school? Yeah, good. Yeah.
So I know you said about a year to be able to enter the program. So how long do you estimate it to do?
So probably a year and a half to 2 years. Yeah. And estimate's a good word because it's new, we haven't seen anyone do it yet. But like with the MAC, we do a lot of our students do the MAC and the MBA, and it takes them, depending on how they choose to do it, a year and a half to 2 years. So someone who's really committed can do it in a year and a half. Yeah.
How long do you anticipate before it becomes Canada accredited?
So we have to have at least one graduating class to
Okay.
become county accredited. That's a great question. The way the accreditation works is we don't just automatically get accredited. We have to show that we follow the accreditation guidelines. So we're positioned to follow those guidelines, but then to receive the accreditation, we actually have to have students graduate from the program. So that's a large goal is to make that happen, and review those guidelines very closely so that we can receive that accreditation as quickly as possible. Thank you, that's a great question.
Yeah, and you have a year of residency, or no, not a year of residency. You have residency. How long does that be? The residency.
To do the residency?
Yeah, and is that after your year of classes or?
I'm not exactly sure how that looks. I don't think it wouldn't be a year. I don't think it's depending on how many credits you need. So the way it's written in the catalog is 3 to 9 credits. So it just kind of depends on how many credits you
And
need.
you just work with, do you have any like companies that you're working with to help students find those residencies?
Right, so, yeah, so we'd probably place you in one of the major hospitals, but it probably also depends on your interests and our connections as well as your connections. And so, yeah, there'd probably be a variety of avenues. But we have spoken a lot with a lot of different hospitals in the region and healthcare providers. So, yeah, great question.
What does financial aid work with master's program?
Good question. Okay, so we talked a little bit before. Someone said the ISU is so affordable, economical. Every word but cheap. Yeah. So, does that mean? And you can see on this card what our full-time tuition costs for a resident. So it's under $5,000. If you're able to do the program in a year, it would cost you about $10,000 to complete the program, which is awesome. I don't know how much you guys have researched the cost of graduate school, any graduate school, but that is the deal of a lifetime.
It's $100,000.
Our MBA, the average cost of an MBA in the United States is, I think, conservatively speaking, about $50,000. So to be able to complete our MBA for about $10,000 or $12,000 is a great deal. So the cost is very appealing. We do have a financial aid office, and so you would work directly with them. That's usually where I send students. I will tell you that at the graduate level, something to keep in mind, another reason why to really consider cost at the graduate level. At the undergraduate level, you're eligible for programs. At the graduate level, there are no such thing as programs. Okay. At the undergraduate level, your student loans don't start accruing interest until you graduate. At the graduate level, you start accruing interest immediately. So the world's not quite as kind to graduate students as it is to undergraduate students. There are also few scholarships for graduate students. But you can get financial aid. We have a financial aid office, and we do have scholarships. Something that ISU offers, this is what IONDA has, is a graduate assistantship. So some of our all-star applicants, people who have really high GPAs, but also have really high GMAT or GRE scores, strong applications. They're eligible to receive a graduate assistantship. The graduate assistantship covers the cost of their tuition, and then you get a stipend on top of that. The stipend pays out, I think it's about $600 every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So it pays like a salary. So in exchange, you work for the college no more than 20 hours a week. Most of our graduate students don't work for us 20 hours a week. So So then you get some experience, you can add it to your resume. We have a lot of different assistants. Diana does recruiting with me. We have undergraduate recruiters. We have students who assist in teaching and research. We have a group of students who do consulting projects for companies in the area. So there's a variety of different options in that. So if you want to be competitive for that, then make sure that you're keeping your GPA up and that you're preparing really well for one of those exams. Did that answer your question? And there are other scholarships. So like I said, there are fewer scholarships for graduate students, but definitely apply for them.
So then entering into the grad program, your like test scores and your GPA is kind of like your high school GPA is for college.
Right, and like your SAT grades. Yeah, great. That's a great comparison. Any other questions about that? Yeah.
Going back to being accredited, what do you think that, I know you said you had to have a graduate, but what date do you think that'll be, like fall 2018 or?
Well,
You can graduate.
probably the soonest that we have graduates would probably be fall. So we're starting this fall, which would be fall 2018. So probably the soonest that we'd have graduates would be December of 2019. We could have some before. So yeah, somewhere around there. The next year or two. Just kind of depends. It's interesting. I've talked to a lot of people who are interested in our program, and there are so many different backgrounds and so many different interests in people coming into it. That it'll be kind of interesting how quickly people get through and different. And then people who are doing the new program will have a little bit longer too. So, any other questions? Yeah.
So, this may be like a vision question or even just now question in the state programs. And how would you say competitively in the same conversation in Minnesota, there's a student contemplating applying to those bigger schools? What makes ISU stand out among those schools?
Why would they choose ISU? Yeah, that's a great question.
Why would they consider?
So, and as a disclaimer, I'm not familiar with who are the big schools in MHA. My undergraduate was my graduate degree was the MBA, and so I don't have a great background in which schools are like their schools. But I'll give you an example. I had a student call me the other day, and he's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about the MBA at ISU or at BYU." Now, BYU is a nationally ranked MBA program. ISU, while it is an amazing program, is not nationally ranked. Their starting salaries at BYU are higher than what our starting salaries would be. There's, a lot of brand recognition with BYU, and I just had to honestly tell the student that if he was my son, I would say probably choose BYU. But that being said, I think there's a lot of different things to consider going into that. The cost of ISU, I think, is a big draw. If you're going to go to a bigger school and you're going to pay for a bigger school, you got to consider whether or not your financial outcome is going to even be able to pay back those loans. I have a brother who's a year and a half younger than me. He did an MBA at a pretty big MBA school. He's a great student. He had a lot of money saved up. He got a quarter tuition scholarship there. And he did his program there. I did my program at ISU. He finished in 2 years. I finished in 2 years. He had $50,000 in debt, maybe 60. I had zero debt. My starting salary was higher than his starting salary. And I wasn't paying off debt with interest, right? So I was that much far ahead of him. So I think for me, that was a really important consideration. And maybe that's secondary to some of you. If the school you're contemplating is the road that's going to get you exactly where you want to be, if they're networked with, like the Mayo Clinic or, somewhere that's really important for you to be, then I think that's a valid consideration. If you're thinking about staying in Idaho, I think ISU is a great choice. If you're thinking about staying in the West, I think ISU is I think it's a great choice regardless. But I think, there's a lot of different things to contemplate. We're bringing in, we have some great faculty of our own, but we're bringing in a lot of adjunct faculty who have some great work experience. We're going to teach some of our classes, and so you'll get some networking opportunities that way. But yeah, does that kind of answer your question? Does that help, Amanda?
I agree with what you say completely. I don't know, for some of you that were here when I came last time, it was mentioned that I got to work closely with President Clark, and he had talked to me about going to Harvard, and he was going to be the one who would be my referral. And so like Harvard, obviously, but then what Heidi talked about debt was like one thing that I considered, So as a student, you have to also put yourself out there. I graduated and I had a job with like a big 4 accounting firm, so it didn't matter where I went because in accounting, if you go there, you can go anywhere you want from there. So if you place yourself, and ISU does really well, like some of the schools, some of the companies that recruit, let's say the accounting program, that recruit at ISU are Big 4, a part of Big 4. So if you can get yourself in there, it doesn't matter where you go to school. If you put yourself, if you start, like even if you stay there, if you don't stay there for long, I don't know how it works with like healthcare, but I'm sure if you want to go big, there are places that you can network and you can get yourself in the door. And as long as you have an education, once you get that experience, you can go anywhere you want from there and not have to deal with the whole debt situation.
Mm-hmm. And I think what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it too. We've had as good students as any university, and it's interesting how our higher achieving, higher quality students, they value their experience the very most, and then they make the most of it. We've had students that we have had students who've gone on to the Mayo Clinic and other places through the MBA program. Obviously not the MHA yet because we don't have those yet. But I think a lot of it is your own initiative, and so that's something else to consider. But something that was kind of interesting to me when I was going through ISU's MBA program, I was kind of like, oh, ISU, who knows about ISU? But as I was talking to people and looking for different jobs and things, people were more interested in the MBA than they were in ISU. Those were the initials that really stood out to people. And so I think in a lot of ways, it doesn't matter a whole lot where you go. But yeah, so those are some things to consider. Do you have anything to add to that or any thoughts?
No, I was thinking when that question was first posed, I have 2 answers to it. And one of them is cost and the other is geography. And if you're interested in staying right here for your graduate experience, ISU is a great way to go. And obviously from a cost standpoint, one of the reasons why a lot of you are here is because BYU-Idaho is a terrific bargain. And that carries over to ISU's programs as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, and I think another thing to add to it as far as cost goes, if you're interested in like a traditional graduate experience, Pocatello is probably the appropriate campus for you. I think I said that a little bit already, but the cost of living in Pocatello is cheaper than it even is here in Rexburg. It's a good 10 degrees warmer in Pocatello, sometimes 15 degrees. The wind is not like it is here. There's a lot of great outdoor activities in Pocatello. You can just walk out your door and go hiking and mountain biking and stuff. It's a great location for that kind of stuff. We have ISU has the largest institute program outside of the state of Utah, so very active LDS student community there, two student stakes. So that's a great place to do that way socially. So yeah.
What are some of these? Are you guys just focused on hospital, or are you looking in smaller practices, long-term care?
Yeah.
like, associating with them?
So, yeah, there are some associations with that, and.
I mean like the companies, not the classes.
Right, well, I know what you mean, but, so obviously the networking starts with like the big hospitals, but there is networking going on in other areas, and we've offered elective courses to help students go the direction that's most appealing to them and to get, starts where they want to be, so. Okay, we're about out of time, so I don't want to keep you guys any longer. So unless there are any questions that you want to ask the group, then we're just gonna hang out a little bit longer. You can come up and ask us questions. There's a lot of food left, and I'm not taking it home. So feel free to get some food and stay and ask us questions if you like. And then if you can also email me, or you can just MBA@ISU and send an email there to ask any questions. I'd be happy to get in touch with you. So thank you so much for your time.